Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm just going to give it a couple of moments just to let a few more people just log in, and then we'll make a start. Okay, again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on today's webinar. We're looking at the Gas Engineering Operative, the 9075. Today we'll be looking at the EPA version 1.2. There's quite a bit to get through, but we'll hopefully have some time for some questions as we go along. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So the session is being recorded. All attendees will get a copy of the recording after the webinar. Everyone is on mute. Slides will be sent to all attendees alongside the recording of the webinar. Any questions that you do have, please use the question function in the webinar. Please ask questions as we go through, so we're not all answering questions at everything at the end. There is colleagues on board that can answer questions as we're going through the presentation today. So please drop your questions in that question tab. If for any reason the session cuts out, please use the original webinar link to gain access back into the session. Just a couple of little pointers there on the GoToWebinar navigation icons. So we've got the chat function, we've got the question function. So if you please drop your questions into that, and we'll be answering those as we go along. Any questions that we don't get to today, or we don't have the answers to be able to get to you at this moment in time, we will come back to you outside this meeting. If there's a substantial amount of questions, then we'll produce a frequently asked questions sheet, which we'll drop into the webinar, into the website. There is a little paperclip function on there. So in that paperclip function, you will find a PDF version of today's webinar. Just a quick introduction to those that I've not met or are unaware. The building services team, so myself, Simon Quince, I'm the technical advisor for BSE. The senior product lead is Paloma. Our industry manager is Salim. And joining me today, answering some questions in the background, is Matt Rogers, his product manager. Again, a little bit of information. Obviously, we've got our building services engineering sector page on the website. So if you've not had a chance to take a look at that, please take a look. Feel free to download any information from there. We've also got a dedicated Green Schools webpage where you'll find all information on our Green Schools qualifications. Again, there's direct access there, so please feel free to take a look. So moving on to the Gas Engineer Operative. We're going to look at the Operative Standard 1.2, version 1.2. We're going to look at the differences between the previous versus the current. We're going to take a look at the endpoint assessment at a glance, the resource requirements, structure and components. We'll also look at the endpoint assessment support materials. There'll be a little bit of guidance also from the EPA team around the approval, the EPA process, and a little bit of up-to-date guidance on where we are with EPA reforms. So the Gas Engineering Operative, the 9075, reference ST0155. This is the version 1.2, level 3, typical duration 18 months, typical EPA period 3 months, maximum funding 23,000. So delivering the standard with City and Guilds. Apprentices training towards version 1.2 can continue to train towards our existing 907403 level 3 diploma in gas engineering qualification as part of their on-program training. We are launching a new program, the 9075 qualification, aligned with version 1.2, which should be available early in 2026. This is fully aligned with the Common Assessment Strategy approved by EU Skills. In the meantime, centres delivering ST0155 version 1.2 can apply the principles set out within the Common Assessment Strategy to support their apprentices regardless of whether they are delivering a qualification as part of their on-program training. A quick overview of the differences. So the current standard, the 1.1, last registration for that 31st of August 26. The funding for that was 22,000. So the new standard 1.2 start date of the 2nd of September this year. The new standard will be the 907512 and the funding is 23,000. Looking at Gateway, so the original version 1.1 must have completed 15-month training program or an on-program qualification such as the level 3 diploma in gas engineering, gas safe registration in 4 relevant competence categories, and level 2 maths and English. On the new version, we've got iGEM IG1 supplement certification natural gas or iGEM IG1 supplement 4 certification LPG. Matters of gas safety, competency, accreditations to meet the standards, to meet the requirements of the practical assessment with the questions. So this is gas. Basically, this means that gas safe registration is no longer required for Gateway. Submission of a portfolio and maths and English in line with the apprenticeship funding rules. Note that anything marked with an asterisk on the new version will be met if pathway E of the 9074 or obviously the 9075 has been completed. Taking a look at the Gas Engineering Operative 9075. So the EPA at a glance, I've got a holistic assessment approach with integrated assessment methods covering multiple occupational duties and KSBs. We've got practical assessments include more realistic work-based tasks with embedded questions to assess applied knowledge. There's a multiple choice test now covers a broader range of knowledge areas supporting synoptic assessment. Interview underpinned by a portfolio of evidence which allows apprentices to demonstrate competence across the standard. The burden of assessment reduced through flexible sequencing of assessment components. Removal of standalone written assignments replaced with more practical and competency-based evidence. Gateway requirements include iGEM certification and submission of portfolio of evidence. EPA components graded individually, contributing to an overall grade of fail, pass, merit, or distinction. Content structure more closely aligned to industry expectations and iGEM professional recognition, EngTech. New version reflects updated NOS and better supports progression into the gas engineering sector. Resource list of requirements per apprentice. I don't think there's a great deal of changes in this. This will look very familiar to those centres that are currently delivering the 9074. So there's a quick overview there of all the necessary hand tools and equipment, including PPE to facilitate the installation, testing, commissioning and servicing of all gas appliances, and related systems must be available to each apprentice. Apprentices can use their own tools or those supplied by their employer. Specific requirements for each practical task. So task 1 is a risk assessment, so obviously quiet area, adequate lighting, space and privacy, straightforward. Task 2, identify unsafe situations. So a minimum of one week prior to the EPA event date, an email must be sent by the training provider or EPA venue provider to each apprentice. And this is going to give a job, appliance and customer details, so there'll be 4 versions, A, B, C or D. This is really for the learners to be able to show that they've got, they can use digital resources and platforms to be able to download information. So this can be done either via smartphone, tablet or laptop or PDA. Apprentices will be required to access the digital downloads on the day of the EPA event. The job, appliance and customer information can be assessed from EPA Pro. Specific requirements for each practical task. Task 3 to 6, install, commission, decommission gas appliances. So not much change there. Practical assessment area should be set up and prepared prior to the EPA event date. EPA Centre must ensure that the gas appliances are fit for purpose and correct for the assessments and compliant with the safety standards. Set of full manufacturer's instructions should be available for each appliance to be installed. All appliances must have the facility to be installed 350 millimeters of gas supply pipe connected using compression fittings. No hot works necessary. The arrangement of the appliances may vary, but those required for the assessment tasks must be available in the same bay. Only one apprentice to be working in the assessment bay at any given time. All apprentices in EPA bays must be visible to the IEPA without leaving the workshop or room. EPA bays must not be set up by other students or delivering staff during the assessment. The technician or support staff must be available to assist with any facility issues or resources available. The EPA will supply the task instructions and accompanying forms. So the practical tasks, the assessment area must include the setup of the following appliances. So a gas meter must be removed, freestanding gas cooker, a wall-mounted room-sealed boiler, and a gas fire. Note the gas meter installation will require the pliable connector and meter to be disconnected from the ECV. The ECV should be capped and the bracket will be prefixed and suitable for the meter to be installed. So looking at the boiler range, we've got the heat-only boiler, external heating components, system boilers or combination boilers. It's important to know that if a resit is required, the apprentice cannot undertake the task on the same appliance. So a different boiler type from the list above or a boiler from a different manufacturer must be selected. So for example, in Bay 1, it may be that it's a Worcester boiler, combination boiler, and in Bay 2 for a resit it could be a Valiant, so just a different manufacturer. But what we can't do is we can't have the apprentice working on the same piece of equipment that they did on the initial assessment. Cooker ranges, so low-level grill, high-level grill, or drop-down lid. Again, if a reset is required, then a different cooker type from one used in the initial endpoint assessment must be selected from the list above. Fire range, so we could have a flueless, an open flue radiant, or open flue inset live fuel effect. Again, if a reset is required, the apprentice cannot undertake the task on the same appliance. A different fire type from the list above, or a fire from a different manufacturer must be selected. And then the meters. So the meters can be any of the following types. So U6 Imperial, E6 metric, a G4 metric, or a smart meter. Again, if the reset is required, then a different meter type from one used in the initial endpoint assessment must be selected from the list above. Task 7 is service and maintain a gas appliance. So the appliance specified for servicing and maintenance checks should be prepared prior to the EPA event. The appliance must be in full working operation except for the intentional fault and able to undergo full service and maintenance check without any further installation work. Appliance must be serviced and repaired, must not be on the installed appliance from task 3/4. It must be conducted on a different appliance from the installation task. So full set of manufacturer's instructions should be available for each appliance to be serviced and repaired. So for example, practical task A, boiler range, heat only, system boiler or combination boiler. The boiler can have any of the following flue types. So room sealed fanned flue, a room sealed balanced flue with natural draft, an open flue with twin wall flue, and an open flue with back boiler and chimney flue liner. Practical task version B. So the cooker can be one of the following: low-level grill, high-level grill, drop-down lid. There's a list there of common faults and defects that can be applied to these appliances. So just an overview of the EPA components here. So we've got the assessment methods. So we've got practical assessment with questions, which are 12 hours plus 10%. So the key details: installation, commissioning, decommissioning of 4 appliances or pieces of equipment, maintenance, service and fault finding procedures of 1 appliance or 1 piece of equipment. There can be some oral questioning from the EPA to explore KSBs linked to the practical assessment. Grading will be pass-fail distinction. The interview underpinned by portfolio of evidence, 45 minutes plus 10%. EPA interviews the apprentice and EPA interviews the apprentice, and the apprentice refers to evidence from the portfolio of evidence provided. Apprentice given opportunity to demonstrate KSB's maps to the assessment method. Again, this is a pass-fail distinction. Multiple choice test, excuse me. Closed book test in a controlled environment, 40 multiple choice questions over 60 minutes. The knowledge focus computer-based invigilation. There's a pass-fail and distinction. There's a little more guidance on those. So again, on the practical assessment, the 12 hours, there's oral questioning to explore and confirm apprentice understanding. EPA makes grading judgment holistically, considering observations and oral questioning. The new task guidance to make it clear to the learner what they are being observed or marked on. Grading descriptors and KSBs at the forefront of the marking decision and recording forms. The interview and underpinned by the portfolio of evidence, so the range of KSBs, themes tested, i.e. sustainability, EDI communication, etc. Portfolio of evidence is not directly marked, but used to underpin the interview. Grading descriptors and KSBs at the forefront of marking decisions and recording forms. Multiple choice, 40 questions over 60 minutes. Full knowledge content amplification of KSBs for multiple choice tests to ensure learners know what they're being tested on. The new sample and suite of papers for version 1.2. Resources. So access to the EPA resources. Detailed information about the EPA can be found in our endpoint assessment documents. By accessing these, you'll gain a clear understanding of the EPA, helping you to plan ahead. So there's some QR codes there. I'll speak to our team. Would you like to speak to our team about the qualifications and complete a BSE contact form? So there's the resources. Again, don't forget, in the little paperclip, you've got the PDF of all these slides that have been presented today. So if you need to go in there, download those, you can click on those QR codes. Gas Engineering Operative webpage. So we do have a dedicated webpage for this new qualification. So again, there's the QR code there for you to click on should you want to be able to go on there and take a look at the resources. The EPA process. I'm just going to pass over to Janice now, and Janice can run through the EPA processes with you.
Thanks, Simon. Could you just pass me on to the next slide, please?
Yep.
Hi everyone. Obviously, for those that haven't met me before, my name is Janice Collins. I'm one of 3 partnership managers across the country that help our customers with endpoint assessments. My 2 colleagues, Rebecca and Maurice, cover the obviously other areas, but we work together, so you can really reach out to any of us and we will support you wherever you are in the country. And we work alongside your key account managers and to support you through the EPA journey with ourselves. Next slide, please, Simon. So I wanted to talk you through today is obviously the approval process, because obviously this has got a new product code. So those of you that have worked with us on gas previously would be used to the 9074. This is now the 9075. So you will need to complete the EPA application process. For those of you that are existing customers, you will need to go into your walled garden account, into your quality section, and then on the top section you've got on the sections is forms. Then you'll get a drop down menu will appear on your left hand side of your screen, and there'll be one of the forms that you can complete is an EPA application form. and you'll need to complete that form with obviously the information. The forms are quite quick to complete. Just need to obviously know who the centre contact is, what your UKPRN number is, and just complete a couple of the tick boxes around understanding that you've got the right setup and the right people to be able to deliver the full on programme for the apprenticeship. And then you will gain access to the resources that Simon's already mentioned in your EPA Pro account. And that will roughly take about 3 days for that approval to go through the systems and for that to be added to your account. And once that's added, then you can start registering your learners for endpoint assessment. If you are new to working with City and Guilds, or have never worked with us before, you don't currently have a walled garden account, the first step you will need to do is to complete on our website, using the link on this page, the EPA only inquiry form if you are looking to only deliver endpoint assessment, and that's all you want to use ourselves for. You will that will then get you a call with one of the three of us, and then we will obviously go through the application form, make sure it's everything that you need, and then we'll get you set up with the right systems, which will be walled garden and EPA Pro. Once you've got walled garden, then you'll do that same process that I've just talked about in terms of the existing customers. You'll need to go into the system and apply for it within the system. But the three of us will talk you through the whole process, so there's no need to worry. It sounds a bit complicated, but once you're online with us, we'll soon get you up and running and get you access to what you need, get you training with our digital solutions managers on how we use EPA Pro, and talk you through everything that you need to know about working with ourselves. If you could pass on to the next slide, please, Simon. Okay, so I just really wanted to talk now through the timeframes for endpoint assessment service with ourselves. Once learners are in EPA Pro, you can then register them and put them into the system and put them through gateway whenever they're ready, making sure you've got the requirements of the gateway, which Simon's already mentioned. We have quite a quick turnaround in terms of how we work on this standard, so it is roughly a 15-day turnaround from the learners going through gateway to the EPA taking place with ourselves. It's got a portfolio, so obviously we'll be working with making sure that we've got everything in place for that. So when you submit the gateway form, we'll ask you for 3 different dates and times of when you want that endpoint assessment to take place, so that we can then get those dates arranged for you. Once the event has taken place, then you've got the results will be out within 7 working days. You can register your learners now onto EPA Pro, or you can wait till over time. Obviously, if we know now, it helps us with our planning, knowing what endpoint assessors we need at a future date. So that does help us, and the sooner you get those onto the system, that is really helpful. And also the learners then, if you wish, they can have access to EPA Pro, to the resources that we have available as well, and they also then can see their result within the platform. So there's a couple of different options that you can work with, but we always suggest registering the learners as early as possible and just making sure you're meeting those renewal requirements as well. So we have that as an option. We know sometimes for learners it's sometimes be quite difficult for them thinking about that endpoint assessment when they haven't got anything planned, and sometimes it takes sometimes it's harder to get them to get their portfolios ready if they don't actually know what they actually need to do and when their assessment actually is. So if we just go on to the next slide, Sam, we do have an option where you can do pre-gateway bookings. This is so that you can be organised with your learners and your venue, so that you know you can plan in advance. And the feedback that we get back from our customers is that they really appreciate this process in terms of being able to plan, and they feel like once learners know they've got a date to work towards, they're much more engaged at getting that portfolio ready and getting ready for that endpoint assessment. So you can use this process up to 6 months in advance really of their endpoint assessment. The learners must be registered on EPA Pro, because we will book the assessor on the platform, and this is for learners that you think are really going to work through that process. So you can book a day. I would say sometimes if you've got 4 learners and you've got 4 bays, you might just want to pre-book 1 learner onto each date that you want and then add learners onto it nearer the time. The little bit of difference there is in this process is that we expect to have the learners through gateway a little bit earlier. So normally it's a 3-week process. You upload the evidence, you get given a date, and the event will take place 3 weeks later. With this process, we need, if you're booking in advance, you need to book at least 8 weeks in advance. We expect by week 5 weeks before that you make that decision as to whether the event's going to go ahead or whether it will be cancelled. And that's because obviously we've got other customers to think about. And if you're going to cancel, we need to make sure that we can then get someone who's used our normal booking process into that actual event, so that we're not losing event times for the IEPAs as well. But it's a really good way to be planned in advance, especially if you know you've got particular times when your EPA bays are ready. You want to use like the college breaks as an example. You could be planning now, for you. I think now you've missed opportunity to use it for your October break, but certainly for February half term, you could be now planning now for who's going to take endpoint assessment and what dates they're going to go through, and start planning Easter. So it's a really good tool to use to be really planned. And this isn't about because we don't have enough capacity. It's partly to help yourselves be organised with when endpoint assessments are taking place, and really focusing on the learners on the fact that they've got their endpoint assessment booked. If you think any students that are doing exams like A-levels or GCSEs, they know when their exam dates are, they've got something to focus towards. This is trying to give the same for an apprenticeship learner as well. So just I need to make sure that obviously with the learners that they are on the correct version of the assessment, depending on when they were registered on the start of their apprenticeship as well. Next slide. I think we're back to yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that, Janice. Much appreciated. So as I'm sure you're aware, this government is doing some reforms around EPA. So there's just a little update here on what we know at this moment in time. Things are changing. We will come to you and let you know as we know stuff. But I'll just run through a couple of little things that have been updated over the last week or so. So apprenticeship reforms, the future landscape. So the main aims is simplification of apprenticeship standards, greater flexibility in delivery models, emphasis on modular learning and digital assessment, and enhance employer engagement in curriculum design. So this is across all apprenticeships. Don't think I've just stuck a photo of somebody having the hair done there for you guys in Gas, but this covers all apprenticeships. 2025-26 apprenticeship funding rules. So key headlines. Minimum apprenticeship duration has now been reduced to 8 months, which was previously 12 months. New rules on recognising and accounting for prior learning. Reforms coming to endpoint assessment from April 2025. Funding and policy rules for foundation apprenticeships introduced. Simplification for part-time apprenticeships. And the off-the-job training is no longer tied to 20% of the training hours. Functional skills reforms for adults, English and maths pass requirements was scrapped for adult apprentices. So this is for 19 plus, and that applies to current and new apprentices from February 2025. The aim is to remove the barriers and increase completion by up to 10,000 per year. Still required for 16 and 18-year-olds is that maths and English. Minimum duration reduced. So again, as I just mentioned, minimum apprenticeship duration reduced from 12 months to 8, or 187 off-the-job training hours, for example. Each standard has a stated off-the-job training hours, which we're going to look at shortly in another slide. And this applies to shorter standards and foundation apprenticeships designed to improve flexibility and access. So endpoint assessment, EPA reforms, simplification of EPA plans, fewer assessment components, greater use of digital and remote assessment, and more flexibility for providers and employers. New foundation apprenticeships introduced, so new level 2 foundation apprenticeships launched for 16 to 21-year-olds, shorter, more accessible pathways to skilled trades, designed to feed into full apprenticeships or employment. Just some guidance here on the off-the-job training hours from the 1st of August 2025 to be determined by the standard basis, so no longer 20%. To set the minimum requirement for each apprenticeship standard, DFE considered a range of information including current duration, both typical duration and actual time on programme, and the volume of planned and actual hours being reported in the individual learner record by providers over the last few years. The new calculated off-the-job training figures confirmed by DFE assume the learner has no relevant prior learning. Active learning hours for English and maths, if they are being delivered, remain separate from the off-the-job training hours. So just highlighted there, so the new gas engineering operative, the level 3 ST0155, the off-the-job training hours from August 2025 is 418. There's a lot of qualifications there which has been reformed and looked at the moment. Getting involved with City and Guilds. This may be of interest to some of you. Some of you may already be involved with us at City and Guilds. But if you'd like to make a difference, you'd like to get involved in the development of future BSc qualifications, the assessments and support resources, then working with us at City and Guilds and as an associate and development consultant. Again, there's a QR code there if it's something that you're interested in, something that you might want to look at. By all means, take a look on the website there. Associate vacancies, again, you know, it may well be, some of you may well already be associate vacancies with us at City and Guilds, so it may be something that you've thought about or considered. Please take a look at the website. Lots of roles on there, from examiners, moderators, EQAs. It's where I started my sort of path into City and Guilds about 5 or 6 years ago. I really took a lot out of it, especially when I was delivering to learners, because it gives you a better understanding of exactly what's happening. But again, it's down to you guys. Just a little bit about City and Guilds there. We'll go to questions. So that's the end of the presentation. Let's take a look, see where we are with questions. So I think we've answered most of those in there. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the questions I'm going through. Please feel free to drop any more questions in if you have any more questions that you'd like to know. I'll come back to you on that one with regards to the foundation apprenticeship. I'll come back to you outside this meeting if that's okay. I'm just trying to scroll through some of these here. Dean, again, I'll come back to you on prices and fees. I don't have that information currently with me at the moment. William, again, looking at advanced learner loans, again, I'll have to speak with our finance team around that and come back to you. Steve, can you convert from route E to 9075 when it comes out? Yep, we covered that earlier in the presentation. So providing they're on route E, they'll be fine. James, I don't currently have anything in place for a webinar for the content and evidence in the workbook for 9075, but I'm happy to discuss this with you. If you want me to set up a meeting, we can have a talk about that. So the on-site gas work logbook is covered in the common assessment strategy, and our logbooks will be updated, so keep an eye out for that one. So today's webinar is just looking at the endpoint assessment. Apologies if I'm going quiet in between. I'm trying to scroll between different questions, looking at ones that have been answered and haven't been answered. Can the fire and elements be delivered in centre? Yes. Apologies for the silence. I'm just reading through the questions, trying to see what we've already answered and what we haven't answered. Thanks for joining, Steve. Hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon. David, does Lynn have to be gas safe registered before the EPA? No, they don't. They just need to complete the matters of gas safety. I think we covered that again in the presentation. James, if you continue with the 907403 qualification, does it need to be on pathway for version 1.2? Yeah, it does, for you to be able to meet the requirements for endpoint assessment. We're getting through most of these now. Apologies if I missed any. It's quite difficult trying to scroll through and see what's been answered by the team and what hasn't been answered. Questions are starting to slow down. Just working through, seeing which ones we've not answered, or what the team are currently looking at. I Again, anybody who has any questions that we don't get around to, please feel free to drop me an email after this meeting. There's quite a few questions in here, so we'll probably do an FAQ sheet to drop on the website as well. Copy of the presentation is in the paperclip, but yeah, you will be emailed the recording of the presentation, and you'll also be emailed the PDF version. But if you want it now, you can access it through the paperclip in the top right of your screen. Thank you, Maxine. Yeah, that's fine. By all means, feel free to reach out after this meeting later on once you've had a chance to have a look through the documents. Again, I'm not seeing many now that we've not got to. Apologies if I have missed anybody. Looks like questions are starting to dry up a little bit now. I know the team are working through a couple. Yeah, Paul will release a list of frequently asked questions. I think we pretty much got through all of those there. I'll give it another few moments. We'll get another 5 minutes to see if there's any more questions that do come through. I hope you found it useful today. I know there's quite a lot to get through there. Please take some time to go through the resource packs and obviously go through the presentation again. And by all means, please contact me if you've got any more questions or anything that we myself or the team's missed while we've been going through these questions. Pretty sure we've covered everything there. Again, I'll give it another minute just in case there's any last ones, but again, thank you for joining us today. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much for those that are leaving. Again, there's no more questions coming through at the moment, but again, I'll give it a minute just in case there's anything coming through. I think the team have worked really well to get through most of the questions on there. Again, apologies if we've missed anybody. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. It's all good for everybody, really. There's no more questions coming in, so I think we'll sign off at that. Thank you again. Again, please feel free to reach out to me if there's anything else that you need or anything that we've not quite managed to get to. I'm always available to discuss further. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye for now. Cheers, guys.